Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me Vulcan. Today I have for you something that a lot of you have been asking for a while, and that is some of my own gameplay on the channel. Now that actually hasn't been the case for about 2 months, I would say. It's been a long time since I've actually recorded a replay of my own to show you guys, but this weekend on the stream I basically said that I would probably go back and record a couple of these games. So here we are with the first one. Today I'm going to be playing with the 3rd Armoured, and we are on Colleville, the 4v4 version of the map, and I am going to be joined today by Lal, Spax and Helljumper on my team. On the Axis side we have Mark, the Lord Bomber Harris, Drazel and Superdew. Lovely name. So let's go and put this to my perspective, and I'll basically talk through what I was doing throughout the game, my thought process, for those of you who missed the stream, and just talk about, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of the 3rd Armoured as we go, which is something that I just generally haven't done for a long time. Now I believe the 3rd Armoured is probably one of the weaker divisions for 1v1 especially, because their income is very, very weak. They have 70 income in Phase A, and that is something that is dreadful compared to every other division. As you can see, the only other division that's similar is the 1st SS Panzer on the enemy side. All of the others have either just slightly more or quite a lot more, especially in terms of like the 1st SSB there with the 100 points per minute income in Phase A. The other thing though is that in Phase B their income doesn't get much better. It goes to 105, and that's really, really dreadful against a lot of the German divisions that certainly get a jump up into Phase B. Now an extremity of that is the 2nd Panzer, and at the start of this game I'm pretty sure that I said I did not want to be against the 2nd Panzer or the 1st SS Panzer, because I believe that the 3rd Armoured are very weak against those divisions, since the 2nd Panzer has Panzer IVs and Pak 40s, which are both very difficult to deal with for the 3rd Armoured. Yes, you can use mortars, for example, but you need to get them into range, and sometimes that can be quite awkward based on the terrain. The other reason I didn't want the 1st SS is because they have Stugs, and Stugs actually match up quite well and they're good value for money against the M4s that you have access to as the 3rd, so that can make things very difficult as well, and therefore that would be quite annoying. Whereas against the 17th SS and the 91st Luftlander, the M4s can actually work out really, really well sometimes, especially against the fire support units like the IG-18s and the Pak 38s and so on. So basically the reason for that is that their AT guns cannot really penetrate the front armor of an M4 reliably, and that's what you can kind of play around. Whereas the other divisions have more than enough AP to take care of your tanks. Stugs have 14 AP, for example, Panzer IVs have 14 AP, and the Pak 40s not only have 1,200 meter range, but they also have 13 AP. Now, I just sped up the deployment here because generally my games on stream do take a while to get going sometimes, but let's just have a quick look at my deployment. I did start off by putting quite a lot of Recon down. You can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Recon, and this is something that a lot of you would say is quite rare for me, but either way I wanted to make sure that I had all my bases covered, so you can see one going up each road, and I'm basically trying to cover all my angles so that I can keep an eye on what these two tanks are going to be doing. I've got a double M4A1 start with an M20 command. It's a very risky start, honestly, all my eggs in one basket, but basically I wanted to make sure that I had enough firepower to break through anything I came up against. Now, worst case scenario, I come up against Pak 40s, and that is pretty much game over, at least for Phase A. So here I see I'm up against Mark, and he has brought in the 2nd Panzer against me. So what can I do about this? He's brought up a Befehl Panzer III, he's got some Panzer Grenadiers there in the 251, and he's got the Panzer IV-H. He's following up with a 250-10, which will have a Panzerschreck, and then he's got the 251 on the right side, which has a speed through. So what I need to do is isolate this Panzer IV. So what I'm going to do straight away is start moving my M4A1 over to the left side. Both of these together should be able to 2v1 Panzer IV. Now worst case is I lose both my M4s. But sort of the normal thing that would happen is I can trade one of my M4A1s for a Panzer IV kill, and I'm quite happy with that because I know my M4A1 can kill probably the majority of his other units. So that's what I'm going to go for here. I've got the M20 command on a follow command onto the M4A1, and that's going to be following the M4s into this engagement. Now I don't want them to go singularly. I don't want to engage that in like with one by one. So I'm going to let my M4A1 stay where it is, as you can see. And then as soon as my other M4A1 gets here, I give them both the command to go at the same time. They're going to wheel up, get into line of sight of the Panzer IV. Now I did mistime this slightly, but fortunately the aim time of the M4A1 completely annihilates the Panzer IV, and that was a very, very nice first shot for my M4A1, and that's the beauty of these M4A1 Shermans. They have a slightly better aim time than the Panzer IVs, I think by like 1 second, and that second makes all the difference at that range. So following that, I absolutely annihilate the rest of his half-tracks, but I do have to be very careful of one thing, and that was his Panzerschreck. I believe I did manage to take out his Panzerschreck. Yeah, I did take out his Panzerschreck just shortly after I killed off the half-track, and making sure that I got that kill was imperative. I could have otherwise used my scouts to make sure that it wasn't there, but at the time I did see that I killed the Panzerschreck because it popped up on the right side. But with that gone, and with my recon in position, I spot out the Sturm Pioneers, I spotted the Panzer Grenadiers on the left, and this has really given me a good opportunity to push on through. Now, this won't last too long because the things that he can do at this point to counter me is either bring in another Panzer IV, or he can bring in a Pak 40. Now, the Pak 40, in my opinion, would have been the best bet, even from the start, but obviously he didn't know what he was up against at that point. But now he knows that I'm up against the 3rd Armoured, or he's up against the 3rd Armoured. Bringing in a Pak 40 is really, really good idea. But I kind of gambled on the fact that he'd bring in a Panzer IV, so what do? I purchased 2 6-pounders, these M1 guns coming in here. Now the idea is that the Panzer IV will be a large threat to my M4A1s at range. However, if I don't even engage with my M4A1s, and I manage to control this tree line, I can quite simply drive an AT gun up here and engage from this tree line. You can see there the Panzer IV and the threat it can be to an M4A1 simply one-shots my M4A1, and that's the 14 AP versus 9 armor showing. So that's basically what I was worried about at the start of the game, and it was basically demonstrated right there. So yeah, I've got my AT guns on the way, but I do have these armoured rifles in quite a nice position. They have been revealed, as you can see, they are falling back after taking fire, which means that Mark knows that they are there. And due to him knowing that, he will be unlikely to press aggressively into this tree line. Now what that means is I can get my AT gun really up close behind this tree line and basically just push it through and engage the Panzer IV at a very, very close range, whilst the M4A1 also gets involved to provide a 2-prong attack. Furthermore, I've got another AT gun coming up on the left side here, and you'll see that I'll actually unload that relatively early to try and engage the Panzer IV already. Now Mark does quite a smart move here. He moves over to the right side so that I don't have a shot with my M4A1, and that basically means that my M1 gun is on its lonesome going to have to move through the tree line and engage the Panzer IV. Now Mark doesn't have any recon here, so he can't see this M1 gun just yet, and he's very lucky that that Panzer IV does not get one shot. It bounces off the front armour at just under 400 meter range. Also again, lucky that the second shot did not find the kill. Still hits. The accuracy at that range is pretty high. So yeah, the Panzer IV survives to fight another day. But what I'm going to do here is be more aggressive with my M4A1. Due to this do-star veterancy, I managed to smack a Panzer Grenadier unit at range, which was fantastic. And now the M4A1's going to pop the 258 as well. These M4A1s were on fire throughout this game, and it was wonderful. Another shot, bam, 250-10 goes down. M1 gun in the meantime is falling back. Mark did have the right idea trying to run down this M1 gun, but I always find that half-tracks have a hard time pinning them down. Now since the other option was that he could bring in a Pak 40 to stop my progression with the M4A1, I decided to bring in an M21 mortar carrier as well, so that will potentially counter a Pak 40 should it arrive. So there we go, AT gun comes into the tree line, finishes off the Panzer IV, again no recon there, and I'd realised that due to the first AT gun not being spotted soon, and therefore I find the kill. So the 2 AT really paid off, and honestly Mark's in a terrible position at this point because he's lost both of his Panzer IVs, and he's lost a lot of infantry, a lot of half-tracks, and for the 2nd Panzer, a division that only has 75 points per minute in Phase A, it's really bad. And as you can see, I'm just one-shotting half-tracks left, right and centre, and some of these do have troops in them. So that is a big problem for him, since a lot of the units of the 2nd Panzer do cost quite a lot, so it takes him a while to reinforce. But yeah, in this position, I think Pack 40 would have been the best bet. Of course, I now have the M21 mortar carrier here to counter that if it comes in. But I do need to be careful as I advance, because as you can see, there is a 250-10 that I can see here and the 251. Now that means that there's a Panzerschreck somewhere. I don't want the Panzerschreck to kill my M4A1. So I'm going to have to wait until my scouts get up to this tree line and find the Panzerschreck before I can advance like really far up. And there's no point in overextending at this point because it may just get me caught out, the M4A1 would die, and then I'm left quite vulnerable. Now what I have done at this point is I've used my M3 half-track to go back and pick up the AT gun that I had on the right side here. I've also got this M3 half-track, as you can see, going to pick up the other M1 gun. So basically the idea is to move up to this tree line now. And since Mark was lackluster on his recon previously, I was hoping I'd be able to do it again by moving up to this tree line, so that if anything armoured came in, I would be able to take care of it. Now the M4A1 does kill off the 250-10. I'm going to be pressing more aggressively here, and thanks to the scouts we're going to end up spotting the Panzerschreck, and that's going to be job done. So I don't have to worry about those anymore. I can kill off the 251 and we can carry on up the road. Now at this point I'm definitely expecting a Pack 40, and I zoom in on this, and as you can see it's a Pack 40. So now I have another reason I cannot advance, and the positioning of this Pack 40 was actually really nice from Mark, because I need to get within 1,200 meter range to mortar that. But as you can see, all of this is open ground. So what that means is I'll have to get my mortar basically into exact range of the Pack 40 to the point where it can fire back. So my only chance really is to use smoke. So smoke's going to come down. I'm going to basically block off the line of sight of the Pack 40 so that I can move the mortar carrier up to a position where I can be in range but out of line of sight of the AT gun. And that's very important because obviously I don't want to be fired upon by the Pack 40. So the M21s, that's going to move up. I'm going to move up my scouts so that I can actually spot the Pack 40, and then once I do, the mortar carrier can fire away. As you can see, I've already targeted it. Now whilst that's all going on, I've got to try and clean up this little salient that's going on here. So at some point I do start moving troops over to the left, but I'm definitely concentrating on picking off this Pack 40, because if I can, then I can get one of my half-tracks to zoom all the way up and capture the spawn on the right side, which will make the rest of the map a lot more easy to control. Now, regardless of me making all this ground at this point, you can see that over on the left, my team is having a hard time. Helljumper has been overwhelmed by the Lord Bomber Harris, and that needs to be cleaned up. So, thankfully, I think some of my other teammates do start to get involved. I didn't want to give up on my salient on the right side, so I basically continued to push on through. But here you can see the Pack 40 is pinned, and knowing that the Pack 40 is pinned is very crucial at this point, because it allows me to get aggressive with the M4A1. What I didn't expect at this point is a Ju-87 from Super Jew. He comes in, 17th SS with the Ju-87G with the 1-star veterancy in Phase A, and smashes my M21 mortar carrier, which now makes it incredibly unsafe for my M4A1 to be in position, because I have nothing now to pin down the Pack 40. And as you can see, I'm immediately reversing my M4A1 away. So yeah, a little bit of teamwork there on the side of the opponents does end up kind of thwarting my push on this right side, because if the Pack 40 was continued to be pinned down and the Ju-87G didn't come in, then I most likely would have overran this right side. So that was a very crucial point in this game. And now we're going to see a bomber come in, the Ju-88S from Mark. This is the cluster munitions bomber. That's going to take out the M1 gun. And so my plan to get double M1 gun in position is not going to work out too well either. Now my M3 half-track, this is the only last chance I have to pin down the Pak 40 at this point. I managed to get it up and unload the armoured rifles very close to the Pak 40, and the idea here is that the Pak 40 will be pinned down by the armoured rifles. The only issue with this is that the armoured rifles don't have a machine gun, so they don't pin things down very quickly, and due to this 258 being on the field, the armoured rifles are going to get pinned down. That's not going to work out. Now I did manage to take down the Pak 40 to 3 health, which was quite good at this point. But I'm going to require another mortar to take that out. So I've got one on the way, and I'm going to use this tree line now to try and get in range. Now Mark did have a speed through on the right side. My armoured rifles were very close to pinning that down, but unfortunately needed some help, so the M4 got involved. Mustang is going to end up shooting down a Focke-Wulf 190 though, and that was a beautiful kill. Really well timed Mustang there. Managed to pick up that rocket plane as it came in. So that was pretty nice. I basically wanted to prevent any more airstrikes like that Ju-87 from happening again throughout the rest of the game. So first of all, I invested in a Mustang, and now I've also invested in the M15 CGMC so that I can win air engagements against enemy fighters should they come in. So for example, Super Jew bringing in the Focke-Wulf 190 there. Now the armoured rifles, they're going to get taken out. Panzergrens engage them at range with the help of the 258, so that's something that occurred. And the Pak 40 here, well, that revealed itself in the process, so I'm going to try and kill that off with the mortar, and if I am successful in doing so, should be able to push more aggressively with the M4A1. However, with the help of Super Jew on this right side now, I do have to be very careful about these airstrikes until my AA is in position, and while since the unit isn't the fastest in the game, it's taking its sweet time to get to the front line. Now we have got ourselves a +1 at this point, 52% territory lead. We are starting to clean up some of the gaps on the bottom side here. You can see Lau's bringing up an M40 to help out, but in the meantime Pak 40 goes down on the right side, and now we see Mark bringing in a Panzer II on the left. So with the Pak 40 dead, it's time to get aggressive with the half-tracks. Half-tracks can, of course, take a lot of ground quickly. So I've got this one moving up with some infantry. This one's just taking the fire from the 258 at the moment. I'm trying to move my scouts over to discover the Panzergrens so I can take those out. Now the Ju-87's going to come in. Unfortunately, I mistimed this. This was really, really bad from me. I really shouldn't have moved up these tanks like this aggressively until my AA was in position, but I think what happened was I kind of expected it to be there by now, so I did get caught out. Either way, gonna manage to bait three aircraft into an engagement where my Mustang can get on the back of them, and I'm gonna try and shoot them down, but unfortunately the Mustang doesn't quite get the job done. Now meanwhile, that did cause my M4A1 to be internal fragmented, so that's a problem, and now I'm being artied by the off-map that the Panzer IV or Panzer II is providing. So things are getting quite frustrating. Basically what happened there was I saw the Pak 40 die, and I got basically impatient with my push. When if I'd just waited for the CGMC to be in position, I think the Ju-87 possibly would have been forced fall back, or would have been made like inaccurate enough that it wouldn't have killed or internal fragmented my M4A1, allowing me to continue the aggression. Now fortunately for me, the M4A1 is still there, but here comes the Ju-87 again, and due to that just coming in, there is really nothing I can do about that. Now the Ju-87 is very unlikely that I'm going to get on the back of that again with the Mustang, so I come round instead and go for the Ju-88S to try and shoot that down. If I can shoot down the Ju-8S, that would be a really, really nice kill for me. But unfortunately, the Mustang is just having fun doing stunts. So Ju-88S is going to get out, and in the meantime, well, there's a Panther D on the field. We've now moved into Phase B. Mark's had 150 points per minute for a while, and he's saved himself a Panther. Now, a Panther is a big problem for the 3rd Armoured, because the best they got is the Jumbos and the M4A376. So at this point, it's basically run for your life, because there is quite simply nothing that I can do against this Panther. My M1 gun's trying to take a cheeky shot at the Stug 3 at this range. I was hoping to get a hit, but unfortunately couldn't find one. If I had, then that may have been a kill, but the Stug 3 of course does have the 10 front armor, so that does make a difference. But yeah, the CGMC that had to fall back, I did manage to surrender those Panzer grounds, which was good. It meant that if he managed to push back a little bit, he wouldn't have found that ground. But having recovered this left side, Hell Jumper has really helped us out, and Lau's found a huge salient through there, which is now pushing us to a +2. So overall, we're doing really, really well. Off-map's going to come in once again onto the M1 gun. My armoured rifles, they move into the tree line. They get the track wheel damage onto the Stug 3, but don't quite find the kill, which was unfortunate. Bazookas, as usual, letting me down. That's going to be an ME-109 there, taking out a Mustang, I believe. Actually, that might have been one of Spax's Wildcats, but either way, I've got to be a little bit careful about Drazel's Air Force on the left side. And, well, in the meantime, I've got to be very careful about this Panzer II that's actually starting to flank me, and I have pretty much 0 AT units left on the field. So, what am I going to do about this? I have M5 guns, and I have 2 on my division that are actually 2-star veterancy. I've got 1 in Phase B, and I've got 1 in Phase C. Now, these have potential to do a lot of damage, especially against units like Panthers, because they have 14 AP, which allows them to engage the Panthers and potentially kill them at max range. Mustang comes in there, kills off the HS-129, really, really nice kill. So yeah, M5 gun. Idea is that I'll ambush these tanks as they try and push back. If I can get it into a really nice position, then that would be great. Armoured rifles here, gonna miss their bazooka onto the Gepard, get themselves pinned down, gonna be forced to fall back. Here comes the Ju-88S. Gonna try and get the Mustang onto that. We've also got Spax coming in with the Hellcat. Unfortunately for Spax, he did not have evac Winchester off, so the Hellcat didn't actually go for the Ju-88. I thought I went for that Ju-88, but apparently I didn't. But I can go for these planes, since there is 2 CGMCs in position. Unfortunately for me, the armoured rifles and the M3 half-track go down. I've got a second Mustang in play now, and that's going to be going for the engagement with the Focke-Wulf 190. This P-51 is going to try and take down the Ju-87G. Does manage to do so. Going to try and get on the back of the Focke-Wulf 190, but Mark's now invested in a bunch of anti-air, so that is going to stop these Mustangs from finding that kill. Black 36 there from Super Jew, and Mark's got the Gepard. So, I'm in a bit of a tough position, but the M5 gun's going to sneak into this tree line shortly, but here comes off-map, and that off-map tells me that there is Recon nearby, or at least he's trying to RT my M15. Either way, it's not good for my M5 gun, but what does confirm that there is Recon is the Focke-Wulf 190 strafing my M5 gun directly. Now fortunately for me, 2-star CGMC does a lot of damage when it can get its 50 cals and its 20 mil on target. This Ju-87G is going to come in from Lord Bomber Harris. Obviously didn't know what the AA was like on this side, and definitely suffers because of it. And I was hoping to shoot down a second Focke-Wulf 190 here with the AA, but wasn't quite successful in doing so. But now there is an M4A 376. I can use that at close range to potentially hold back a push from Mark. The only issue that I'm having is that I'm not killing any more units, and that is a problem. Basically because the second Panzer gets stronger the longer you leave them. They have some very, very scary units in Phase C, and they have a lot of strong infantry from Phase B, like the Sturm Grenadiers that we've just seen there next to the 258. So I've got to try and deal with those somehow, and that is basically solely up to my M4A3 and the M5 gun, but due to this Recon, I'm going to have troubles basically with pulling off ambushes. So, it's time to bring up the Jumbo. Jumbo's on the way, and that's going to be accompanied by 2 more units of infantry, and I've got another M4A 376. Now when you're using the 3rd Armoured, it's very, very important to utilise both the Jumbos and the M4A3s in combination, because the Jumbos, basically they're there to sponge. They can drive nice and close to the enemy and take a lot of hits in that 20 front armour, whilst your M4A3 76s, they are there for flanking and for engaging at range with that little bit extra AP that can definitely defeat certain units, like for example the M4A3 can kill off the Stug 3 quite easily. It will definitely struggle against a Panther D at max range because the Panther D has 13 front armour, but a Jumbo might be able to distract that with the 20 front armour at max range, for example. So that's sort of why you need them in combination. The other great thing about the Jumbo is it does still have a decent 5 HE on its main gun with the 50 cal and 30 cals that all the M4s have. So I've basically got to set myself up a defensive position here whereby I can sort of sit behind the tree line and wait for the advance of the tanks that are here. Now one thing that is a problem is I don't have any infantry covering these tree lines. So at the moment what could happen is Mark could potentially sneak up a Panzer or something into this tree line, and then that would kill my M4A3 before the tanks even have to come round. So that's why I have these 2 half-tracks on the way with the armoured rifles, so they can sit on one side of the tree line and tell me if any infantry moves into that tree line. Now over here I did try and get my armoured rifles to kill the Panzer II, but it was unsuccessful in doing so. But a lovely kill there by the M5 gun is going to clean up the Stug 3, and we have a kill from my M4A376 onto the Panzer II. So a couple really nice snapshots there. M5 gun takes a shot at the 258, now under threat by these 2 half-tracks. Now in order to make sure that they, or the M5 gun doesn't get pinned down, I'm going to get my Jumbo involved. But this M5 gun with the 3-star veterancy, due to my M20 command coming up, should be able to clean up a lot of these units for me. Unfortunately, here comes artillery, and there's not too much I can do about that. But the Jumbo's still here, so the M20 is just going to be accompanying that for the time being. So just going to clean up all those half-tracks, and currently the Panther's nowhere to be seen. Of course, I've completely ran out of recon up here at this point, and ideally I should have really been moving up these scouts to not only find out what was here sooner, but also just so that I had the recon on the front line where it would be useful. I do believe I rectify that at some point, but as is usual for me, I do tend to forget my recon sometimes. But here it goes with these scouts. Going to start moving them up just to reveal what is here. Mark's Panzer Grenadiers are going to be found. Here comes another bomber. Ju-88 is going to bomb the Jumbo. Gets forced back by the CGMCs. Doesn't quite get shot down, but this is the reason that I had the armoured rifles here. You can see the Panzer Grenadiers, they move into the tree line. Yes, these Panzer Grenadiers don't have AT, but if they did, then that could have been trouble for my M4A376. And what happened in the meantime is this M4A3 got attacked by the Panther D, got internal fire, and had to fall back. I was quite lucky to have that alive at that point. Now what has happened is I brought up a second M5 gun, and this here is my other M5 gun. It just doesn't show the veterancy because I've reloaded it into the M3 half-track to save it from the artillery that was coming in. Now on this left side I do find some spear troop, which does make me understand why he could see behind this tree line. And having sort of taken out that infantry, I shouldn't really lose any more over on this side, potentially. My Mustang does go down in the meantime. Drazel comes in with his ME-109G0, and well, the Ju-87 that comes in and pops my Jumbo. Now I do make the Ju-87G pay for that, but losing the Jumbo was quite a tough kill to deal with there, as that was sort of my main unit for pushing hard on this right side. And what I do need to do is kill off the spear troop, because it will spot the M5 gun that's coming in. But the idea that I have here is to use the M4A1 combined with the M5 gun to engage the Panther D and potentially take that out. This M5 gun on the right side is going to kill off that spear troop in the meantime, which means this M5 gun will not be spotted moving into the tree line. and that is going to allow me to get a shot off at close range. M4A1's going to come around for a shot as well, which baits the engagement from the Panther D. You can see it actually tried to aim there at the M4A1 instead of the M5 gun. That was very important. And then my M4A376 comes in, finds the side shot, lovely kill. Now this M5 gun, that's going to be trying to engage this Panther out in the field here. But it's basically shooting at the wrong point at the moment. He knows it's there. You can see him fire positioning into the tree line, but it's not quite hitting the mark. So M5 gun's just going to take constant shots at that Panther. I do manage to find the ammo storage here. I've got this M4A376 pushing forwards aggressively on the right side. As a Befell Panther, if it showed side armor, then it could be toast. It is, and it's gone. So that is a Befell Panther and the Avklada Panther D both killed. And those are very, very crucial kills for me. The M4A376 with the 2-star veterancy is like an absolute sniper, so takes out the Gepard. And now we're going to see the N3 Scout bring up some more recon that I've needed for quite a little while. But having invested into these units, I think was definitely worth it, finding those 2 kills. Now my M5 gun on the left side did get taken out by artillery while all that was going on, and I have managed to sort of clean up this left side. So we've definitely got a large advantage in this game with the 57% territory lead. On this far left side, Hell Jumper has stabilized. And then Lau, well, he's in trouble, but I'm continuing to push again on this right side now. And, well, Spax isn't going anywhere with his large amount of forces from the SSB sticking in that town like glue. So, what can Mark do? Well, he can bring in another Panther, and that's exactly what he's going to do. If he can continue to engage these M4A3s at range, then the M4A3s should lose. But the way I've done it so far by getting these M5 guns into ambushing positions and keeping them moving around with the half-tracks has been very, very important to make this work. Now the Lord Bomber Harris is going to surrender. In the middle here we can see that there is a nice salient, but yeah, on this left side he has given up, so the AI is going to take over there. But in the meantime, on this right side, I'm going to take out those Panzer Grenadiers. I'm going to keep the M4A3 behind this tree line so that I can sneak up an M5 gun and do a double engagement onto the Panther again, because potentially that will lead to the Panther falling back and I can basically get another kill. This M4A376 is going to join the other one, and now I've got an M4A376 with this M4A1 moving further to the left. Now my whole aim here is to quite simply cut off the reinforcements on this far right side again, so that I can start sweeping across the map. But of course there is only 9 minutes and 20 seconds until we're victorious at this point, so I do have to think about that a little bit in terms of my overall strategy. But yeah, we've basically done really well to get this far on the right side. Unfortunately, the Ju-88S is going to come in for another bombing strike, takes out the M5 gun. Pack 40 snuck into that tree line, does take out my M4A376. Mustang is going to go after the Ju-88S. Can he find the kill? Yes, he can. Ju-88 finally goes down, pays for all of its kills throughout the game. I'm also going to come in there and try and strafe out the Avklada so they cannot spot troops in the future. But yeah, the M4A376 going down was quite a hard blow for me to deal with, because now I can't really do the double team onto the Panther A, and of course the M5 gun's gone as well, so that's that. Now I'm left with 2 M4A3s. I'm going to bring up a third one. Fortunately my AA is all still in position, so I'm safe from airstrikes, but this Panther's definitely going to be a problem. So here comes Drazel's ME109 G6. I'm going to be able to get onto the back of one of them and engage that with the Mustang. Mustang's actually going to get outturned there, which is quite unfortunate, but CGMC does save the day for my other Mustang, which manages to get out alive. So over on this left side, I'm using scouts quite aggressively here to make sure that this tree line is clear, or at least to see what's on the other side. And that's basically going to allow me to potentially push the M4A1 round the tree line, but I choose not to in the end because my scouts couldn't survive in that tree line for long enough. Unfortunately here my P-51's going to get hit by the Focke-Wulf 190, but I managed to micro that, snake it in front of the Focke-Wulf so that the Focke-Wulf struggles to get on its tail, lead it over the AA, and that is a lot of AA. I'm also going to cheeky go for the kill here. Very, very greedy play with the P-51, especially considering it already has an air leak, but getting that kill would be absolutely wonderful. Due to this being the 2-star Focke-Wulf 190 though, I believe it does get out alive, which is quite something after it came under that much fire. But now we see Lau coming in with all of his air force. This is the 2nd infantry here with all of the Thunderbolts, going to be coming in with all those bombs, and that's going to force back the Panther A and the Jagdpanzer that Mark has been relying upon. Now that allows me to get aggressive. I take out the Aufklärer with the M4A376, which was really important. Taking out the Recon is really, really important at that point. But as you can see, I'm going to be starting to get very aggressive with these tanks. So M4A3 can start fast moving up the right side here, and this one's just attack moving across the open because there's no point fast moving, there's no road nearby. Of course I could try and use this road, but I've got to move to it first, and it's the same normal moving to it than it is attack moving. Anyway, this M5 is going to get taken out. We can see that the Pak-40, that's still pinned. So I am in a good position here. Thanks to the Air Force of Lau, I can basically get all up in the face of these tanks. I've also brought up a M7HMC in the meantime. This is the Priest, to pin down that Pak-40 as well. That's what initially pinned it down, so that has allowed me to get very aggressive here. But yeah, it's basically all hands on deck to try and kill off these 2 tanks as quickly as possible. You can see my M4A3 here does have line of sight, so we're going to be trying to take a shot. Now the Focke-Wulf going to be trying to come in there and save the day, but doesn't quite pin down my M4A376 in time. In the meantime, I've killed off the Pak-40, and we've also got to the point where we've cut off reinforcements. So I will know that there's nothing else coming in here anymore, and I can quite happily finish off the Panther A and the Jagdpanzer that is there. Now from this position, I'm quite happily going to push to the left side, and Mark's going to surrender, having lost the majority of the remainder of his units, and I think that's fair. I think in the early game, my decision to bring in the 2 M4s was basically the perfect counter to what he chose to bring in, and it definitely snowballed in the early game, but you can see how the power of the 2nd Panzer, assisted by like the other players on the team, managed to push me back quite significantly from where I was basically at the spawn all the way back to kind of here and these tree lines. I managed these quite well, and that basically allowed me to stay in the game when I otherwise didn't have any AP units left on the field. So that was quite something. Anyway, just waiting for the M4A376 there to finish off the Jagdpanzer, and the job is done. So from here on out, it's basically chasing down the AI. Since Mark is no longer in control of his troops, it's just me moving and cleaning them all up. So I'm going to have my Recon moving up with my tanks. You can see I've got my tanks nice and evenly spread. I've got the Recon in between them, and I'm continuing to bring up the CGMCs as well. Now it's very important that I keep at least 1 or 2 on the right side, because Air Force can still be brought in here even when land units cannot. So that's very important to think about, and often it would be a good idea to leave a anti-air half-track on the land spawn instead of anything else, because you can still cover those air spawns in that case. Now the Focke-Wulf, or the Mustang, sorry, does end up shooting down one of the ME-109s in the end, and you can see here my half-tracks are getting aggressive. I've also got these M3 scout cars that have the 50 cals on them, so they are able to take out some AA. Now my M3 half-track is going to go down to a Pak-40 here, but I did manage to kill off the Hummel with the M4A3, but my M4A3 is definitely under threat if there's a Pak-40 in that tree line. So I've got to try and find the way to take care of that. I'm going to bring in the Mustang and try and strafe it, but not quite successful in doing so just yet. I'm going to need something a little bit more heavy, but for me, I only have Mustangs. Now the Lord Bomber Harris is going to bring in his Focke-Wulf 190. My Mustangs are going to go for the engagement there, but of course I do have all this AA, so It's not necessarily required, but I do want to shoot that down, of course. So here comes the Mustang to try and find the kill. Doesn't quite need to, and yeah, it does the job. So what I need to do here is pin down this Pak 40. I do have this M7 HMCs able to do the job, but as you can see, the AI is counter-battering my M7, which is kind of frustrating. But as soon as I pin down this Pak 40, that's going to enable my M4A3s to push aggressively once again, since the scout should be able to keep an eye on it. Thankfully, Lars going to come in with the P47 Thunderbolts. He's actually going to bomb out the Vespers, but you see the Pak 40, that's now been pinned down. I also shot down a Focke-Wulf with the Mustangs in the meantime, but yeah, with all of this airstrikes coming in again, it's time to get aggressive. All of my tanks have attack move position, or attack move orders, sorry, and my Jumbos are zooming up the road to come and join in. These are the couple of Jumbos that I just had left over on my division, and since I've got 150 points per minute in this phase, why not bring them in? So Mustangs are going to continue the strafing run onto the Pak 40. I do manage to take it out. Mustangs do the job, and these Mustangs, they really did support me well. Now, once upon a time, I did actually used to play the 3rd Armoured without any Air Force at all. But in this game, it reminded me of why I added these Mustangs back in, because they really have done absolute work for me throughout this game. Very, very awesome unit. Sometimes can be quite frustrating to use. You saw them basically fly past their targets a couple of times because they were too fast. But just in general, they did do really well for me in this game, especially shooting down things like Focke-Wulfs, which kind of matched the speed. Now, what I did end up doing was finding a Fulton spear troop that was kind of sat behind enemy lines here for a very long time. And basically what that told me is it was what was spotting a lot of my stuff throughout this game. And my sort of lackluster play with the scouts on this left side led to the spear troop being there for quite a while. So there we go. Anyway, P-51 Mustang's going to come in. That's going to try and get on the back of one of the Ju-88s. I'm also going to be bringing in another Mustang now to get involved with this air engagement. Here we go. Mustang coming into the middle of the bomber formation. Going to shoot down one. Get the hell out of there. Really, really nice. Almost a realistic kill attacking a bomber formation like that, although you probably wouldn't want to hang about on the back of a bomber with your aircraft, otherwise you're going to get shot in the face. Either way, towards the end there, we do manage to kill off the Maltier, and after 38 minutes and 55 seconds, that is going to be a victory for our team, and I managed to get a very, very nice 5,470 kills to 1,760 losses. So, yeah, really, really nice game. I think with the 3rd Armoured, it's probably the best game that I've had with them for a very long time. But it mainly comes down to just choices, right? In the early game, I chose the double M4 push. It won out against the Panzer IV that Mark chose. Then Mark chose to bring in a second Panzer IV. I chose to bring in AT. So it was sort of like simple counters. Then as soon as the second Panzer IV goes down, what's he got left in phase A to kill my tanks? Pak 40s. So what am I going to bring in? A mortar. And it's just kind of making those simple decisions that allowed me to sort of snowball my lead and get myself into a really good position whereby I did need to be a little bit defensive in phase B due to the pushback from the strong phase B of the 2nd Panzer. But in phase C, of course, I get 150 points per minute. I can get myself a lot of reinforcements, and that really allowed me to push on through and win the game on that right side. So let's have a look at how this M4A1 did. It got a ton of kills in the early game. This was the one, well, one of them traded and died, I believe, and then this was the one that picked up all the kills. So Panzer IV, that ended up dying to the original M4A1. The M4A1 went on to kill loads of half-tracks, demolish loads of infantry with the machine guns and so on. This one managed to kill the Panzer III and the 250-10 and a few units. Then it got one shot by the Panzer IV. That's what happened. Then we saw the Mustangs. These Mustangs what absolute work they did. Now that's a 150 point Mustang. It shot down a 200 point Focke-Wulf as its first kill. Then it killed a HS-129B3, which I think is another 200 points. And then a Ju-87G, which I think is 180 points or 150 points. But either way, it paid itself off like 3 times over, which is absolutely insane. CGMC managed to shoot down a Focke-Wulf 190 as well. We see the M4A3 come in here and pick off a few units. But this M4A3, that was the one that picked up the kill onto the Untitled D, also killed off the Jagd Panzer in the end, got the Hummel kill, and also shot down a Focke-Wulf with its 50 cal. I mean, you don't really get much better than that. 2 more Mustangs paying themselves off twice over, 2 Ju-88S kills there for one of them, and an MU-109 and a Focke-Wulf. CGMC picked up another Ju-87. Bringing in those AA pieces was probably one of the best decisions I made in this game after the initial airstrike came in, because they saved my ass so many times and allowed the Mustangs to win those air engagements and get plenty of kills. So make sure, guys, to always support your aircraft with your own AA. It's very important. Either way, that's where I'm going to leave it today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed something quite a bit different. It's been a very long time since I've done a replay commentary of my own gameplay. And hopefully it was very informative, especially to do with the 3rd Armoured, which I know a few of you are quite familiar with the Division, or you kind of like the Division. So yeah, hopefully that'll help you play the Division in the future. I think it's a division that could use a little bit more love, especially in the early game, maybe just an increase to some of the income. But either way, yeah, that's it. Hopefully I'll be doing more of these in the future, but after this video I will be going back to the 2nd European tournament to just finish off with the finals, and hopefully you guys look forward to those because they are going to be absolutely spectacular. But until then, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.